Hey, welcome in to another edition of the North Idaho Prepcast here on IdahoSports.com. I'm Hayden Uhlenkott. Happy to have you with us. It's episode 14. And as always, we're brought to you by Cornerstone Insurance, our great supporter. And then always, this Prepcast is being streamed on Facebook, YouTube, and our X account. Give us a like, share, and follow. Make sure you can tell all your friends and family in the world to tune in on IdahoSports.com. We got all kinds of content, all kinds of sports popping out all over the state. So always tune in on Idaho Sports. Well, without further ado, we have a big day today, big show. But let's bring on our co-host, Scaggs. How are you, man?
Doing well, man. Better than I deserve.
Absolutely. Well, I don't even want to, I just want to cut to the chase. Let's, skip all the, small talk. We're going to get to it. We're going to bring on one of our guests that we've been trying to get on for the last 4 months. And really just, it's kind of our fault for not even asking him. It's nothing to do with him. And it's just our lack of awareness to reach out. But without further ado, the first-year head coach for the Kendrick Tigers, Ty Koepp. How you doing, Ty?
Good. How are you guys?
Good,
It's been
man.
awesome.
Busy,
Awesome.
busy week this week for you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
How's that week been for you, Ty? Last week you guys came off the win against Notice. What's this week been like for you guys? And then also, is it different than any other week?
Not really. We treat every week the same. The boys are excited though. They're really excited about this one. Kind of a team we haven't seen a whole lot of in the last few years. So someone new, they do lots of different things. So we're just excited.
Absolutely. You guys, I don't think Scaggs can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think Kendrick has ever played Grace before in my, at least that I can think of, since Grace is typically the 2A squad up in that classification. So I think it's kind of a new territory entirely, I would think.
You guys didn't, yeah, I was gonna say you guys didn't play him early in the season last year, year before last, did you?
We played them my senior year at a meet in the middle game in Homedale. Yep.
And how did that game go? Just curious.
Oh boy. I think we won 52-14 or something like that.
Nice. I didn't expect anything less, but I was just kind of curious.
Well, it was a barn burner. You got to leave your starters in that one. Sorry.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right, we got comments rolling in. Then we'll get to another question, Ryan. Doug Schultz, I missed your comments on the Lakeland blowout of Hillcrest.
I never said that they were actually going to beat Hillcrest. So, you can go back and watch the record on that one. And I actually picked Hillcrest to win the state championship. So, people can poo-poo on me. I was rooting for the Hawks. I'll be honest, I was. That's just me as a former Lakeland coach. But yeah, we can get into that when we break down games later in the Prepcast.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a wild one. I'll keep going then, Ty. What this is your first year coaching. Obviously, you're freshly 20 years old, so it's been kind of a whirlwind of a season for you. Just kind of, it's entirely new. But what was it like in the summer when you first got the kind of head nod that you were going to get this head coaching gig? What was it kind of going through your mind, and what has it been thus far?
Starting out the summer, we had our team camp that was scheduled before I'd even talked about applying or interviewing. So I kind of just volunteered with the assistants we have now. And we took the team to Butte over to Montana Tech, did the team camp. And then as the summer, a couple weeks after that, I figured out that I could apply. So I applied. And then as soon as I got that job, which was the day of my interview, I started weights. We started getting everything rolling. And even before that, all the kids were in the weight room on their own. I think there's a couple of them that had keys. So they knew, even if there's no one there right now, we got to keep this rolling. So once I got there, it became more organized, things like that.
Were you supposed to tell us that kids have keys to the weight room?
I can't
No, probably not. But I feel like that's every school. I mean, let's be real.
You'd be surprised. You would be very
surprised.
What happens on campus.
Accidentally. Awesome. So how, looking at this and we'll just go back to the beginning of the year and your thoughts with being hired. Did you see age being a limiting factor for you?
I was a little nervous at first, because I played football with lots of these kids, grew up with everyone on this team. But as the off season kept going and then we rolled into practices and stuff, kind of realized for all of us, I think it was good. Like someone that the kids are comfortable with, they know me, I know them. All the assistants kind of stayed the same besides Frisbee left, but Coach Anderson, Coach Anselmo. So that just made the kids comfortable, and it didn't feel like, okay, they're getting thrown at a bunch of new things or having to worry, because they trust the process and trust everything we've been doing. So it's kind of nice keeping all that the same.
That's awesome. And the continuity is huge within that group too, just because, being the small town atmosphere, I think you get a little bit of a benefit versus some of the larger schools, just because, the families know each other so well. And I think you guys have a saying was like tiger born, tiger bred. You're going to be a tiger till you're dead.
Yeah.
You guys live that mantra, and just kind of being the fly around the program at times, and I know Hayden can probably say this too. What sets you guys apart from everybody else? Because I think they're looking for a special sauce of what makes Kendrick so good. Um, as a player now, as a coach, what have you seen that, or what have you experienced or instilled in your team that's really setting you apart from some of these other programs?
I think the big thing is our youth programs. Everyone starts at third grade, and they've been playing together for such a long time. So when you get into junior high and high school, like you already have that chemistry. And then it just continues. And then it's like, okay, now we have to put in the extra work. Once you start to develop, some of these kids start to get older, they'll start hitting the weight room, throw on some muscle. But I think the main thing is growing up and playing since third grade. I mean, all these kids have been doing it, and it's not just football, it's basketball, baseball. Like it's year-round things that builds this. It's not just during the fall.
No, I totally agree there. Yeah, I mean, it's even. I look at it just even from a standpoint when I was even growing up. You look at like schools like Prairie, it's the same kind of deal. It all starts at the very beginning, and when you miss out on that, you just see a different level of competition, and it definitely shows, especially in the lower level of not lower level, but like the 2A, 1A classifications. It really shows heavily just the talent that produces each and every year. Ty, I want to ask you this. Throughout your year, you guys haven't had a lot of close games. I'm not going to, sugarcoat it much, but you guys did against Logos. That was a really fun game to be a part of, fun game to broadcast. You guys were down at halftime. I think it was 16-14. What was your message to your team at halftime? And then how was that coaching adjustment for you? Because you guys hadn't ever, I don't want to say you have never coached. You didn't coach until then, but it was the first big moment where you're like, okay, I have to make like a smart move, or we might actually lose this game.
Yeah, I think going into halftime, we get into the locker room or whatever, and everyone was kind of just panicked. Like they were worried. And I'm like, fellas, this is what we've wanted all year. I'm like, this is exciting. This is fun. This is what you play the game for it to be competitive, for it to be hard, because that's where you're going to learn from things. And then kind of just took that halftime to just, take our breaths, settle down, just get ourselves collective, because it wasn't – Logos is a great football team, but part of it too, I think, is we were beating ourselves a lot. Like we were just panicky the whole first half. And then once we settled in, kind of got in a rhythm, started playing together, it got more loose. I think that's when things got better.
Yeah, no, totally shows, turns it around, and you guys win by 30, but really good, really fun football game to be a part of.
So I'm going to play the role of prosecuting attorney, and you got to defend yourself now. For everybody out there listening, that says, hey, Kendrick just runs up the score on everyone, and they boat race everybody, and they're embarrassing these teams. I know the answer and the true answer to this, but there's people around the state that do an awful lot of talking about one-upsmanship and everything else, and how you guys embarrass other teams, and they think that you guys are running up the score on other teams. Tell us the truth as a coach on this, because I've seen it firsthand in some of your games. They just get lopsided really quickly. When do your starters come out? When do you make the decision to actually pull those kids? And actually now, as you're seeing like Maddox make the maturation process as he watched you play and sat behind you. So one, defend your team on your decisions on that one, but also two, how does it actually help your team being in those games where you're up big?
Yeah. First off, we go into every week, preparing for an opponent. Like, it's going to be a close game. It's going to be 4 quarters of football. And then if things do end up getting out of hand, I try to the varsity guys, they deserve to play. 100% they deserve to play. So if it gets out of hand at halftime, then 100% all of our varsity guys are sitting, and we'll go to the JV guys, start bringing them in. It's nothing the kids are doing wrong. They're doing everything they're told. They're doing a great job. They're respectful. They're good. They're good sportsmen about it. But as for the JV kids going up against this varsity level competition, when most other schools aren't getting their younger guys in as much as early, like getting those guys the reps, I think helps. Because then when we go back and watch it in film, like they're getting to learn and get that physicality presence earlier than a lot of these other schools with their freshmen or their sophomore kids.
Scaggs, that was a hard question for I think any coach to answer. Like,
well, I mean, I mention it because the message boards are like they see your score, you're beating a team 108-6, and it's like, oh, they just leave the starters in the whole time, and it's like, no, did you actually watch the game film? Like those guys came out at half, and they had a freshman at QB the entire second half of that game. They had another freshman at running back and a freshman at wide receiver and a sophomore that plays tight end was playing center and all these other things. Like you're just throwing randos out there. And so those games, and it's just the level of athlete that you guys have within your program, I think really shines. And I'll just say this from the coach's aspect, from the 11-man game, they're still getting varsity reps.
Mm-hmm.
So like you're getting freshmen and sophomores that are playing a ton of meaningful minutes against varsities, like A guys, in games where that team is trying their hardest still to climb back into the game and make that score a little less lopsided. And they're taking the best shot from the opposing team. And so they're still getting those varsity reps. So, your younger guys are actually, ahead of schedule once they enter the picture as maybe sophomores or juniors, because they've been seeing so many of these teams like first stringers. So that's my defense for you guys, because I think it's not fair when I see people maybe blow up a message board poo-pooing on you guys for embarrassing a team. It's like, well, what are we supposed to do? Just go hit the bus at halftime? I mean, because that's not an option. You're gonna have to forfeit a game at that point when you're ahead 56-0 at the half. So, I mean, yeah. Are you going to roll out your water boy to go play quarterback? That's not really a reasonable expectation.
Yeah, and that's that too. It's not like our varsity guys are playing that whole half. Like if things get out of hand, we start subbing some of our second string guys, trying to get them some reps, start mixing people just so other kids are playing with other kids. Like it's not just the ones the whole entire time. That way kind of mixes the groups up a little bit.
Well, I mean, you get guys that have been playing guard that go into the backfield, and then they end up like last year at Potlatch when Zane was coaching. I remember that game in the playoffs. It's like, yeah, your starting left guard ended up at running back and then ended the game with over 120 yards rushing. So It's not like you were leaving your starter in there. It's like just so happened the dude's a good athlete. Sorry, like it's not like he started in that spot.
I would almost also attest that, like, I think you could, and maybe I'm wrong and I would like to be proven wrong too, is like you could go to any team that Kendrick's played this year and go to their coach, and I would ask their coach if they think they ran up the score, because I could go to Ryan Hasselstrom right now and I think he would tell me no. Like I'm almost confident of it. But the other thing I wanted to add is, and Scaggs brought it up at the end, was you have players like Nathan Kimberling and your brother Colt who are transitioned to the line. And at the beginning of the year, that was a concern. We were like, okay, well, Kendrick lost all these, big linemen, Brock Boyer's gone, all these kids that were really talented have now graduated. They bring in this super small, not small, but relatively speaking, small offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost flourished. You guys hardly get any pressure on Maddox. How do you think the 8-man game has transitioned even in the last, even since you graduated, maybe even a little bit prior to speed? Speed always kills. you get to the edge and you almost have a chance at scoring. And I know that's kind of a discussion, is maybe we want to change the field size. I know that's a discussion in the future. But what do you think, just as a whole, of how the game has changed in the last few years?
It's the small school thing. You got different groups. It's always ups and downs. Right now with our line, they're kind of small. Nathan Kimberling was a running back last year, linebacker. Now he's DN, guard. Colt played safety and receiver last year. Now he's guard and DN as well. But having those athletes come down, I think helps, because it's like they might not weigh as much, but they're not like weak kids. Like, they're strong. Nathan Kimberling squats over 500 pounds, and he's 205 pounds, I think he is. So it's like having that as an athlete and then come down, I think it benefits us, because you have more of a mobile line we can do a lot of different things instead of, last year our line they're athletic as well, but, maybe not as quick left and right. So it definitely helps getting the athletes, and it teaches other kids other things too, which they enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I guess the last question for you before we have to let you go, because I know you got practice and stuff and you guys got to head to Lewiston. But,
Yep.
Looking at your time at 2A, the 2-year stretch that you guys have had, and going back down to 1A next year, how do you maintain that level of schedule? Like, as far as keeping the strength of schedule and making sure that you're putting the best opponent in front of you, especially in the non-conference, because that's where you get the most control. How have you guys talked about approaching that for the next couple of years on this next 2-year cycle?
Still trying to keep quite a few 2A teams. And then we've tried targeting a lot of like the top 1A schools so far. I know we've talked to council. I'm pretty sure we got them on the schedule for next year. But like, we've tried with Cary as well, tried with some of the top 1A programs, because it's like, that's how you continue to get better. You win or lose, like, you're going to learn things from those football games. So it's always good to schedule up instead of, okay, let's go schedule someone where we know it's not going to be competitive just so we can get a win in the column, even though you're not getting anything out of that.
Yeah.
I want to ask one more thing, because we're talking schedule. There's been a lot of speculation about, Kendrick won't play Adrian. Adrian and Kendrick haven't played yet. What's your guys' take on playing Adrian outside of the season? And then also, have you guys tried to play Adrian before to get the record straight?
We have. We would love to, but I don't think it's going to happen as much as we've tried and wanted to. Don't think it's going to happen. We kind of, after I think it was my junior year, we've started to go away from the out-of-state games, just because, you play the Idaho teams and you're going to get 4 quarters. We played 3 Washington teams, I believe, my junior year. They all ended at either the end of the first quarter or at halftime. It's like, that's not fair to us or the kids that are playing now. And if you play an Idaho school, like, they're going to give it all they can, play 4 quarters. That's why I love Idaho's, because they're never going to give up no matter what it is.
Absolutely. Well, Ty, it's awesome having you on. Best of luck. Enjoy your practice at Lewiston tonight on the turf. I hope you enjoy it. And we will be watching your guys' game on Friday night versus Grace. So thanks for coming on, Ty.
Awesome. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right. Well, that was fun. That was a blast.
No, Ty's a good kid, man. And I'll just say this, like, when I heard the announcement that Zane got hired at Lewiston, and people are scratching their heads like, well, who's going to take that Kendrick job? Like that's the marquee 8-man position within the state. First kid that came to my mind, I'm like, Ty should get a shot. And I know that people are looking at other schools, and I just didn't see any of the other coaches really wanting to leave their program too much just to walk into that job. And Ty has done and I'll just say this, and if he's still listening, he's done a masterful job taking this program, and there's a lot of pressure on that position just because you've won 4 championships in a row, and the program has not taken a dip, and I don't see it. They're going to lose some talent. There's a lot of good kids on this team this year that are going to graduate. But I think they've got the right guy in the right spot at the right time for that transition next year going back down, and then seeing the kids come in through the program, building it the right way. They're not getting any transfers. They're not doing that. It's the kids that are within their little, their youth football program that just come in, and, they got a small school. Their enrollment's under, I think next year it might be under 82, if I'm not mistaken. So they're getting, the guys that are walking the hallways at Kendrick High School, like those are the dudes, most of them are turning out for football. And so, that's a great job. If you're going to get recruiting wise, getting the majority of the boys in your school to play football, that you're doing a great job. So, hats off to Ty and what he's doing, and we wish him nothing but the best.
Absolutely. Well, they will play Grace Friday night at 6 p.m. in the Kibbe Dome, and they will await the winner of Kamei and Logos. Well, I don't know if they'll wait. Hopefully, they are awaiting the winner of Kamei and Logos next weekend. That will hopefully also be in the Kibbe Dome. Might be an early, maybe Thursday night, Friday night football. We shall see. That will be fun.
The rumor is it would be Friday night in the Dome, or sorry, Thursday night in the Dome. Thursday night championship game.
That's what I've heard, because U of I and Idaho State play. So
Yep.
That's on Saturday. So I would think that would be the case. So maybe we'll get some Thursday night football in for some high school action. For
maybe somebody pulls some strings and they play the game in Lewiston. You never know. So
maybe. That's a whole nother story. Well, let's start at the bottom, Scaggs. Let's start at 8-man and work our way up, and then we'll hop into some swimming, get the last swimming results of the year. Is that state championship wrapped up just over the weekend? So Let's start in 1A. A lot of crazy games. Let's just pick one, Scaggs. Which one do you want to pick on, since I know Gem State game day happened last night as well?
Well, I could pick two here. I think we just picked the two North games. Those obviously were the closest score-wise. I think Tri-Valley showed who they were. You had that game. Council sat guys in their game to rest them for the game against Cary this week. I'll start with my game that I had on Saturday. That Coeur Christ Cary game was fun. Coeur Christ was impressive, and it really did come down to a play. It was in the fourth quarter. Coeur Christ was driving. They had scored on every but one drive the entire game. Cary had scored on every possession. Coeur Christ just so ended up getting the ball. They had it third down, and it was, I think, 3rd and 10. And Grant Clemens scrambled and picked up about 7.5 yards and got hit at the end of the play. He got his bell rung. It wasn't a malicious hit or nothing like that. He just took a shot towards the head region. And the official, you just kind of have to listen to the referee. And they said, hey, you got to sit out of play, let yourself go get checked out. So 4th down and short. And, Hayes had to come in and play quarterback on that one. He scrambled. They needed 2.5, and he got 1.5, 1 3/4 yards. And they were stopped short, inside of a yard on 4th down. And that was the ball game. But Cary, hats off to them. They played their tails off. I mean, offensively, that team just moves up and down the field at a great clip. They're very balanced. They got a great running back in Stockton Sears. He's good. He's really good. And for his size, that kid's insanely powerful. I think that was the thing that jumped off to me, is that he was just shedding tacklers. Like, big kids would stand him up in the hole, and he would just forearm shiver him straight to the ground. To see a kid with that size of frame being able to do that type of work was impressive. And then, defense was optional in that football game. I mean, neither team was able to really stop the other team at any time. And, Grant Clemens was great. John Denke was very good in the second half. He came on and had over 100 yards rushing in the game. But the difference maker really was, I think, Saili at quarterback was insanely efficient. I mean, he passed better than 85% passing in the game. Threw for 200, and I think it was 236 or something like that, and 3 or 4 touchdowns. And they just, that was the difference in the game, was they were able to capitalize and got that one stop on the opening drive of Coeur Christ. And that was the difference in the ballgame. Because I see this, and I can't prognosticate and say too much, but if Clemens doesn't go down in that situation, Coeur Christ is going to go down and score a touchdown, because they'd done it all game. And they were driving. They were in Cary territory when that happened. And once they got stopped short just on that one instance, that's what the game hinged upon. That's unfortunate. It doesn't take away from a phenomenal season from the Saints. But Cary prevailed and got the W, and they're going to play a really good Council team this weekend. That's going to be a phenomenal semifinal matchup. in between those two teams. I mean, really, you could see that as a state championship in its own right too.
Oh, Scaggs, you're getting ahead of yourself. I'm telling you. No, I think Quarter Christ is somebody next year
Oh boy.
That should be somebody Kendrick should get on their schedule.
Oh,
That'd be a
100%.
great game.
Between Denke's back, I think Zember's back, Janae's back, Clemens is back. There's weapons on the field for the Saints. Janae was a difference maker in that ball game. Denke struggled in the first half, and Coach Clemens kind of threw a little curveball at Carey, and they put Charles Janae in the backfield, and he was awesome. He was great, and he almost had 100 yards rushing before halftime. And so, I mean, that was a great call from Coach Clemens, because he could see Carey really keying on John Denke. They're like, hey, we're going to take away the run. And so when they put Janae in the backfield, he was also a threat in the passing game out of the backfield too. But yeah, that's a team that if I'm Kendrick or any team in 1A next year looking to bolster my schedule, that is a must-have team to play next year in the scheduling.
Totally with you. The other game on the docket that I don't know was somewhat entertaining was Wallace and Genesee. I'm stealing Brandon's graphic.
It was okay.
Somewhat entertaining. I mean, everyone was watching it, including I think all the broadcasters during their own games. Just a wild game. Wallace was up. Wallace was trailing by 14 points with like 5 minutes left in the fourth. They score a touchdown, get an onside kick, score a touchdown, get another onside kick. I mean, they throw a Hail Mary down to the 5-yard line and get 2 chances at the end zone because of a pass interference on Genesee, and then they couldn't come up with it, and then they go into overtime. Same thing. Wallace scores, they get the 2. Genesee scores, can't get the 2. Game ends. Just a wild performance by Genesee and Wallace. I mean, when the score was 22-18 the first time they played back in, I think it was September, I would have bet a lot of money that was never going to look like that score again. And I mean, it paid off with over 120 points combined with the two teams. So just a wild output. So hats off to Genesee and Wallace. And now Wallace gets the bid of heading to Tri-Valley. Scaggs, I've watched Tri-Valley live. They run the ball really well. What does Wallace have to do to beat Tri-Valley in Cambridge?
They're going to have to play defense with their offense, meaning they're going to have to sustain drives, and they're going to have to get points on those drives. That's how you're going to do it. I mean, they're going to – and the thing about Wallace that they're so great at is the quick hitter. I mean, they get the big play. They're going to need – I mean, the problem is, you're not going to get as many opportunities because their offense has such long, sustained, methodical drives of Tri-Valley running the ball the way they do. Wagner and that group is just great. They're really, really, really good ball club. They're going to have their hands full, so they're going to have to convert. They cannot come up empty-handed on their drives. They're just going to have to score. Turn it into a game like it was with Genesee. If it's a track meet, it favors Wallace. It honestly does, because of the weapons Wallace has and the way that they're able to open things up offensively. If it's a track meet, I could see it favoring the Miners. If it gets into like, hey, each team's going to get 5 possessions, that's a tough ball game. That doesn't favor Wallace the way that they're able to score and play offense. I think that Tri-Valley is going to have to do the same thing. They're just going to have to make the drives as long and painful as possible, get a touchdown, give Wallace the ball back, and then hopefully you get a halftime break in there, and then you flip ends and maybe you get the ball back after the half, and so it's essentially like getting a 4 and out or 3 and out. So I see a really good ball game. I really do. I think it's going to be a better game than a lot of people think. I know a lot of people are just jumping on board Tri-Valley, just saying, hey, this team is destined for a state championship. Honestly, I think Wallace, people are overlooking him just because of what Cooper Miller is able to do offensively. He's a year more mature than he was last year when he went to Carey, and that just, I mean, he looked discombobulated against a really good Carey team in that opening round loss. This is a different team.
I'll put this out there. I picked Tri-Valley to win the state championship and Friday, and I think if this team makes it to the title game, I think they win. They have an unstoppable running game, but yeah. I wouldn't want to play Wallace. This team's playing with house money.
They are
Riverboat Gamblers,
so
man. Dangerous.
Yeah, they're they're going to the casino the day after payday. I mean, that's exactly what Wallace is doing right now. And I mean, I picked Council to win the championship, but I mean, realistically, I told Sean I was like, it's going to be Council and Tri Valley in the championship game. But the way Wallace has turned the corner late in the year, I'm super impressed. Like I really am. Defensively, they're not doing a great job stopping teams, but nobody does a great job stopping teams in 8-man football. I mean, you're playing on a 53-yard wide field with 8 guys. It's hard to defend. Just newsflash, it's difficult. So yeah, I mean, take it what you will. I picked Wallace to win. I think Wallace could pull the upset. For that very reason, is just that the pressure's on Tri Valley. It really is.
Well, and I don't want to talk about it, but next year Wallace is going up to 2A, so
Yep.
that'll be fun in itself. You to avoid Kendrick, you to avoid Logos. Who knows?
Never know.
North typically doesn't have a good track record in 2A, but maybe now changes. Maybe that changes now. All right, let's hop through 2A. Pick one of these games, Scaggs. Kendrick Grace or Kamei Logos. What do you think of these games?
Kamei Logos, man, a rematch of a game you had earlier this year. You said Logos kind of, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'll do the quick summation is like, Logos kind of gave that one away a little bit, and it was a loss, but it's going to be a dandy of a ball game. I mean, it's at Kamei's home field. Kamei's got home cooking. They've been really good at home. But Logos has looked different since they've been able to sustain their change, within the backfield. I think that they're, getting the quarterback situation solidified, being able to put your playmakers in space and put them where they need to be to contribute. Coach has done a phenomenal job with that group. He really has. And it's that defense travels, man. And Logos's defense, pound for pound, obviously we know Kendrick's undefeated, but you look at defensively statistics, that Logos defense is as good as any 2A team in the state of Idaho. So defense wins championships, defense wins big games and tough places to play. And I think, I look at Logos and Kamei, it's going to be a phenomenal ball game. I wouldn't be surprised to see a similar result of the previous meeting to where it's, the game's in the 20s, which is kind of weird to say for an 8-man game, especially come playoff time. But, I don't think passing attempts for Logos, I mean, if you look at Kamei's strength, I would say it's on the back end of that defense. So it's going to be one in the trenches.
At the moment, it's supposed to rain, so I don't expect a clean football game at all. I expect lots of mud and rain, and it's going to be cold. And so that's exactly what those two football teams want because they had the option to play in the dome. So
yep, they did.
That's what they're looking for.
Yeah. So, and like Everett Oatman and I mean, they can pound the rock too. Kamei can, and Landmark is fleet of foot too. So he's a threat in the running game as well. So it's going to be a fun ball game. I mean, really the defensive line for Logos is very, very, very good. If they can hold the line of scrimmage, it's going to be low scoring affair and a lot of, you could get used to seeing punts in an 8-man game, I guess, maybe.
Mm-hmm. You very well might. And then I touched on the Kendrick Grace game in the 8-man Prepcast. I think it'll be fun to see Kendrick, and Ty did too. It'll be fun to see Kendrick play a full game. Yep. And I think that's what everyone wants to see. So if you want to watch some really good athletes play on Friday night, go to the Kendrick game.
Grace is a great team. Yeah, I know this is the North Idaho Prepcast, but that Grace team, you said going into the playoffs is the team to watch because they've been peaking at the right time.
No, this team's good. So highly recommend watching it. We're not going to touch on it anymore. Maybe next week. Next week we'll get on it. All right, 3A. The lone North Idaho team left, Priest River. They played Aberdeen at home, came up short. They just could not stop the run against this Aberdeen team. And, I mean, their starting quarterback hardly played at all. They had a backup come in. He threw literally as minimal as possible, and they still got the job done. I think Aberdeen is a really good team that might win this weekend. But hats off to Priest River on a heck of a season, winning the CIL and advancing to the playoffs.
Yeah, and I mean that's a team that's going to return some nice pieces next year too, with a coach that's gaining a lot of traction as far as getting turnout up. Community buy-in is at an all-time high. I mean, the resources they're getting with their facilities and everything else is awesome to see too. And a great, I mean, I don't want to take away from the season as a whole, and you don't ever want to end on a loss, obviously, but 99.9% of the teams in your classification end on a loss. There's only one team at the end of the year that gets to end with a W. So it's hard, to face that. But that's an Aberdeen team that you said it. I mean, plays extremely tough. They run the ball extremely efficiently and well, and they're just nitty and gritty up front with their offensive line imposing their will. And that's kind of what happened. They got pushed around a little bit in line of scrimmage, and Priest was able to get their own in the run game, but they needed a little bit more and to be multifaceted, I think, to overcome the hill, and they just couldn't get necessarily get things done.
Hey, and that's a thing to look forward to is Priest River. We talk about scheduling. That could be a thing for Priest River. Go find a school like Nampa Christian. Go play them. Maybe go find Ryrie or North Fremont.
We've seen Grangeville do it. Mainly it's geographical reasons, but I think for Coach Zepeda, that's you're going to have to pull some of these other games out now. You're going to have to go play New Plymouth. You're going to have to go play Nampa Christian. You're going to have to play some of these teams that are quarterfinal, semifinal teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with you there. All right, 4A, we had Bonners Ferry last week. 2 weeks ago, they got eliminated, so no one left in 4A. Go Kimberly Bulldogs. 5A, we had two teams, Lakeland and Sandpoint. You watched the Sandpoint or the Lakeland game, Scaggs, but
a little bit. That was the Coeur d'Alene game, but
it's
the highlights.
What's your takeaway of these two teams as a whole? I don't want to say it's successful. I would say that if the 5A bracket was any different, they would be not playing the 1 and 3 seeds. They'd be playing like the 4s and 5s, and I think they'd have a better chance of playing this weekend. You have to beat the best to be the best, so I don't know if they would have gotten there anyway. But, I mean, I think they both had really good seasons, just coming up with two good teams.
5A, why have max preps if you're not going to use them? I mean, if you're going to give 8 auto bids, I mean, why? So, but I look at this as a whole. Lakeland, what we just said for Priest River, I see for Lakeland as well. You're going to have to go hit the road and schedule up. I know that they've got the historical rivalry. You're going to need to have like a Moscow game on your schedule. I get that. It's a historical rivalry game that, Moscow's still technically 5A in all sports except football. You want the geographical stuff to save a little bit on travel, but you're going to have to pick up a game or two against a District 3 school, or maybe hit the road and a meet in the middle against a, East Idaho team, like playing a Century or playing a Bonneville or somebody like that that's going to meet you in like Butte. They've done it in the past, and maybe it was just a hole in the schedule this year that didn't get to be able to fit with anybody. But, seeing Lakeland climb the ladder, they're going to have some good parts coming back, but they lose some great leadership within that group. I mean, Cash Lund and Jace Taylor and Peyton Hillman and Will Pete. I mean, there's some guys that were within that nucleus of that team that they're just Lakeland dudes. I mean, there's a kind of a term up here that they throw around. It's like, oh, he's a Lakeland guy. Those are all Lakeland guys, man. I mean, just they gave their heart and soul and everything for that team and that club. And it came up short running into an insanely talented Hillcrest team. And you hit it with seeding. That should have been probably a semifinal game. Realistically, if you look at seeding and how it shakes up, I would love to have seen a Twin Falls Lakeland game. That would have been awesome. That would have been, two styles that are actually pretty similar to each other. But I wouldn't let it detract too much from the season. I think it was still a great effort from that club. And, seeing there was holes with like, how are we going to replace, Lovey Wheel? Like, how are we going to replace Lovey, this year? And Griffin Tamagni stepped in there in the backfield and was an absolute dynamo. One of the top 4 running backs in 5A football. And so, I think they did a masterful job. I mean, they really did. It's just Hillcrest is extremely good. Tyson Sweetwood is a stud. I mean, that dude, and somebody said last on Gem State Game that he's the truth. He is. Like, he is different. He is a different animal. And you talk about, that type of speed that just, it doesn't really sneak up on you. It's instant. And, that was the thing, I think the difference maker is that Lakeland, they were without Cash Lund. It changed their defensive scheme a little bit. having to move guys around from their other positions. Like I know Caden Carl had to slide into that position where he was normally kind of that hybrid lineman, defensive end type. And it was just a tough assignment. And that's a tough draw. It just really was. So they're a well-coached, disciplined team. And that's Coach Schroeder does such a phenomenal job with that. The Lakeland team, like they're not going anywhere. Like the program's there. And I only see the IEL next year as a whole being better. Like it's going to be 3 teams again, but it's a deep 3 teams. And you look at what all those teams brought to the table this year and what they can bring back. There's a lot of hope for the North next year.
Yeah, and I mean, shout out to Sandpoint as well. I don't want to say they squeezed the juice out of the lemon, but they did a lot of good things this year, and they have a lot of good athletes.
Yeah.
I mean, you went and beat the number 4 ranked team in the state, Twin Falls. I mean, granted, that was the first game of the year, but that's a win. That's a huge win that you look back on, and man, if the seeding was any different, maybe we would have played Twin and we would have beat them already. I don't know. I think hats off to Coach Knowles and that group because they had a heck of a season. They were fun to cover this year.
Braden Buck out. I mean, one of the most dynamic offensive players in North Idaho. And then you throw in Yarborough, who on all 3 areas of the game was probably the best at his position in North Idaho. And I mean, you could say that. I mean, defense might be an argument with some of the Coeur d'Alene dudes, but what he was able to do in the kicking game, what he was able to do in the punting game, what he was able to do, at outside linebacker, what he was able to do at wide receiver was just something you don't really see a player change the game in every one of those areas when he's on the field. And that's what Buckout did this year. I mean, he's just a phenomenal player. And then you throw in, Maverick Gomez and the speed that he's got is just, it's a generational type of ability that he showed. And, the offensive line being able to kind of come together and gel when it was a big question mark unit, in my opinion. I think the lines on both sides of the ball were deceptively consistent. Like people would probably look at it on paper and be like, oh, that's a weakness. We can attack that and exploit it. And then I think the other one that really snuck up on people was Jensen Sheets in the backfield. Did a very admirable job at running back this year, and his numbers were similar to Griffin Tamagni's. Like he wasn't far off from what Griffin was able to do in the rushing attack. And being able to have an offense like that, where you're able to have the passing attack and then you throw the rushing game on top of it. I mean, it doesn't surprise me it was an 8-point game against Skyline if you're able to play that way. Skyline's just got, Zion Crockett. Like, that's your problem. Like, I mean, and how many teams have had to say that this year too? So, yeah.
Every one of them. A couple comments in the chat. Wallace Minor Athletics, Wallace versus Genesee, wildest game of the 2025 season in the state. I was thinking, I don't think I can come up with a better one. I mean, Lakeland, Lewiston,
yeah. I mean, that
one's a tough one, but I don't think I can come up with that one. That was fun.
I mean, points-wise, yes, I will agree.
Points-wise, for sure. No one's top. Well, North Gem down in East Idaho played someone, and it was like 72-78. I don't know who they even played. That was a crazy game. Sam Buffington says, go Miners, and surprise, I'm late. Shocker, Sam. And then Joel Richardson, East Idaho co-host. Lakeland's well coached. They'll be back. 100% agree with Joel.
He was on the call on Friday for that game too, and he got to see firsthand. And that's just the thing. I mean, Lakeland had their chances, and early it was a tight game, and it was just, you give up a score, you get a couple stops, but you don't get a score of your own. Give up another one, couple stops, and they just weren't able to convert when they needed to. And that was the difference in that ball game. I mean, Hillcrest took advantage when the opportunities were there.
Yeah. All right. Last bracket of the day. Still one team started, one team left from North Idaho. The Coeur d'Alene Vikings have a massive win last week. You were on the call. We've all heard, I think, your takeaway about Madison, about the game versus Madison. You can touch on it more if you want, but I'm curious your thoughts about how they can beat Timberline.
So, I mean, I don't know if it was just an off night for Madison or if it was a great game from Coeur d'Alene or a combination of both. And I think it was probably a combination of both. Coeur d'Alene, the thing that surprised me the most, I think that was the most impressive coming out of that game that I took away was Priest Palmgren at running back. That dude needs to get the ball more. Like, he is a difference maker, and he's a phenomenal linebacker, but that dude just punishes people. I mean, he runs angry, And that was something that stood out to me. And then the other thing you look at too is you had 10 receivers catch a pass in a football game. You don't normally see it. And that was the second time Coeur d'Alene's done that this year. So how do you beat Timberline? I mean, Timberline's got talent all over the place. You're going to have to lean heavily on those DBs just because they've got some great receivers. The quarterback likes to air it out a little bit. It plays into Coeur d'Alene's hand, to be honest with you. I mean, Coeur d'Alene's back into their defense. The way they're able to play. If Mateo Rea is my difference maker for Coeur d'Alene, if he can get pressure on the QB from that defensive end spot, him and Rylan Peterson, if they can hold their own up front on that D line and get some pressure and maybe get a little bit of blitz pressure coming from the outside, whether it's, Ian Dolan or if it's Ben Murray or Priest Palmgren, however you want to dial up the blitz packages. I mean, if it's a low score game, it favors Coeur d'Alene. It really does. And I think that's how Middleton got Timberline earlier in the year, is that they just threw the handcuffs on them and put pressure and said, hey, we're going to take away the pass. You got to beat us with the run. And if you want to get a running attack against that Coeur d'Alene team, you're running right to the teeth of that defense. And they're going to need another night like they had from Tanner Stern. And the one thing I will say about that is this team trusts Tanner, man. Like, you notice the change, like there's been a distinct change within the group since Tanner stepped in at QB full time. His teammates are, rallying around him. There's a lot of head slapping, a lot of, rah. There's some trust out there. And that's pretty evident just watching from the stands. You can see that they've elevated their level of play a little bit. And that's not me poo-pooing on Caden Simmons and his talent ability. He's a phenomenal quarterback. I think from the aspect is that you get a two-faceted player from Tanner Stern with his running ability and you throw in his arm. That's a difference-making talent out there on the field, because he ran for over 100 yards until he had to take 3 knees at the end of the game.
And you have a guy that plays some outside linebacker as well, getting in on the action there. So,
yep.
I think they're a team that's hitting their stride at the right time. They've been in these big moments before. Coach Amos has been in a lot of them. I feel really good about
Amos knows how to coach in big moments, man. And he thrives in these type of environments. They went down to Eagle 2 years ago and won on a late field goal. Could happen again. I mean, realistically, it could be that type of black and blue game. And that's how Coeur d'Alene wants it. And then if they win, the championship game's up north. So there's a lot at stake here for the Vikes to be able to step toe-to-toe with the number one team coming into the playoffs. And, I know that Rigby was number one, but the number one from District 3. But and take care of business. I mean, leave no doubt. And I think that this Coeur d'Alene team, talking to a few parents of kids and one of the coaches, like, this team's excited for the opportunity. They put the early part of the season behind them, and some of the stumbling blocks that they've hit. They've played a tough schedule. This team's ready. So I would love to see them show up on Friday night and just start throwing haymakers. And I mean, the one thing I will say too, the X factor for me was Maddox Lindquist when he was back, and Ben Murray being at full strength with 2 full arms. That's another big step up for that Vikings team. So Lindquist had 3 picks. He had a pick 6 on defense, and then he was a force in the receiving game too.
Yeah. Well, that'll be fun. And that one is Friday night, I believe, as well.
Yep.
And all these games are on IdahoSports.com and being streamed either audio or video. Pretty sure. So that's what Brandon said. So I'm trusting him. So
yeah,
that's a pretty cool accomplishment for Idaho Sports as well. Okay, last football thing. Do you have a helmet sticker in mind? Do you want to go? You want to look through some of the 1A?
Just because it's such a rare feat, I'm going to go Maddox Lindquist. 3 interceptions with a defensive touchdown. Or I could just give it to the entire Coeur d'Alene defense as a whole. They forced 6 turnovers against Madison. That was a huge, huge improvement. I mean, with that group, and being without Gibson Comstock as well, and being able to have the offensive output. The brightest star for me, like that's showing up late, George Mitchell. That's a guy to keep an eye on. He's been awesome on the defensive side of the ball, but he's really coming into his own as a receiver as well, and turning into a weapon for Tanner Stern. But helmet sticker would be Lindquist * the entire Coeur d'Alene defense.
We're going to get some. I'm telling you, I'm going to go buy some helmet stickers.
Yeah, we got to do something.
All right, I'm going to go with Baxter Covington. Pull up his stats. He threw 4 passes, had 3 touchdowns, had two on the ground, and a $153. He played a great game, and so he was the difference maker for
You didn't go
Logos.
Cooper Miller and like to get, he got it
I
last.
feel like Cooper's got almost every single week he plays. Sure feels like it.
No,
All
Baxter.
right.
Yeah, that Logos team is good, man. I'm excited for that game Friday night.
Yeah, well, let's wrap up with some swimming. We don't do it very often, so let's do it. There were state championships over the weekend. Let's start in 6A. I'll run through I'm just going to run through the winners of who took first. If you have any things you want to add, absolutely go for it. So in 6A, the Coeur d'Alene boys won the 400-yard freestyle. That was a team of Davis, Voller, Keith, and Cushman. And then Lake City, Quinn Taylor of Lake City won the 100 freestyle. And her teammate Sylvia Stroh, she took second. And then the Lake City girls also won the 200 freestyle relay. That was a team of Stroh, Young, Griffith, and Sobek. So those are the 3 6A state titles. 5A is where Sandpoint just dominate. This team is impressive on the girls and boys. The girls get their three-peat. And it was interesting. They actually only had one. They only won one state. They only won one event, and that was the 200 freestyle, 200-yard freestyle relay with Storms, Ballard, Allyward, and Montecchi. They were the state champs there, and then they took second in the 200 medley relay, the 400 freestyle relay, the 200 individual medley, the 50-yard freestyle, the 100-yard butterfly, the 100-yard freestyle, the 100-yard backstroke, and the 100-yard breaststroke. And so, I mean, if you take second and everything, points are going to add up for you, and no one's going to get close, especially when the teams that are getting first are, different schools. Like if Idaho Falls won a couple, Century won a couple, but they never could get, multiple, and Sandpoint just cruised. Let me go through the boys one. Go ahead.
I was going to say congrats to Sandpoint girls on 3 consecutive state championships in swimming. Is any sport, it's so hard. And to be able to do it the way that they have and as impressive as it's been says a whole lot about that program, and just a phenomenal job, just like you said.
Totally. And then on the boys side, Sandpoint boys go back to back. They win the team title. They won a few more. They won the 400 freestyle relay. That was a team of Jensen, Faust, Levitt, and Wright. That was a school record. They won the 200 freestyle relay as well. That was a team of Jensen, Faust, Levitt, Wright. That was a new state record and school record, and they won by 8 seconds, which is insane. And then there was one other champion, the 100-yard breaststroke was Andrew Ford of Sandpoint. He had a school record. He's a freshman. He actually beat out his teammates McCoy Jensen and Maximus Brown of Sandpoint. They finished second and third. And then Sandpoint was second in all of these events as well. They were second in the 200-yard medley relay, 200 individual medley, the 50 freestyle, the 100 butterfly, the 100 freestyle, which actually was Kale Wright. It was a school record. And then the 500-yard freestyle and the 100-yard backstroke as well. So they got second in all those. And then also shout out to Noah Crossler of Moscow. He was able to get the one individual state title for Moscow. He won the 100-yard butterfly. He actually beat one of the Sandpoint swimmers as well. And then also the 500-yard freestyle was won by Ryan Schroffnagel of Lewiston. She was able to beat Bria Rocky of Sandpoint. So I don't know. Maybe you know more about swimming than me, Scaggs, which I'm sure you do. Maybe not. You know history, I guess, better than me. You know the history of it. Is North Idaho this dominant in swimming?
Yes. Yeah.
Always?
Yeah, I mean, historically too, I mean, Lake City's been in the mix at 6A for a number of years as well. And so, Coeur d'Alene's had their moment in the sun. Lakeland was good a few years ago as well. Post Falls has always had a few competitive swimmers. So yes, North Idaho has been very good in the pool. as of late, especially Moscow. Noah Crossler, Moscow's a stud, and I can't remember what year he is, but I know that he's won consecutive state championships now, and I'll have to go back and look at the records and correct it if anybody wants to correct me. But I know that he's won back-to-back for sure, at least in 2 of these events. So yeah, he's a stud, and yeah, North Idaho dominates the pool lately. It's either been them or like Bishop Kelly or Boise. So yeah.
Cool. And then also shout out to Mia Driggs. She committed to Arizona Christian University over, I think, last weekend, or maybe it was right after the state tournament.
Yeah.
So she's going to go swim at the collegiate level in the NAIA world. So shout out to her as well. And yeah, that wraps up swimming, Scaggs. We have one more week of football. After that, we'll have, our all North Idaho teams that you and I are working hard to put together. And then it's basketball and wrestling. We are so close to the winter season.
Yep. Coaches and ADs, please send us your stat sheets, please, because not everybody fills out max preps. So we're trying to pull stats in and go through all of our notes and everything that we've seen, and we've watched a whole lot of football this year, but those lists are never easy to compile, but always a whole lot of fun to do and give the spotlight one last time for, some departing seniors too. And, next week, championship week.
Absolutely. Hoping for a few North Idaho teams playing there. Maybe 3, maybe 4. Who knows?
That would be awesome. Yeah.
It'd be cool. All right. Well, as for Ryan Scaggs, I'm Hayden Uhlenkott. We will see you guys later on the North Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.